Little medical school. This sounds like a phenomenal concept. So why don't you tell us what's the origin of it? What made you want to launch something like this?
Little medical school's really a concept based on my childhood and growing up. My mother was a pediatrician. She was one of those few women back in the 1950s in medical school.
Wow.
So, me and my siblings, we always grew up being told, not that you can be anything you want to be. You can go to any medical school you want. You can be any type of doctor you want to be. I mean, it was kind of a joke,
Right.
but she loved medicine. She was, so proud to be in the profession. And anytime I had friends over or cousins, whoever she could, get a hold of, she would just, start talking. You should go to medical school. It's such a great career. So she would bring home fun activities for us to do from her office. So I had my own little doctor's office in the playroom. I had band-aids. I had, the whole set, to do vital signs. I had eye charts. And so it was so empowering though, because you really could, see that, you can be anything that you want to be.
Right.
And I wanted to capture that and share that with kids around the world.
Wow. That's amazing. So your specialty was internal medicine, right?
Yes.
And how long did you practice before you started wanting to launch this?
Right. So I also always loved business. And, I got very involved in student government and American Medical Association when I was a medical student. And so I actually went and got my MBA at the end of residency. And so I did have practice. I would do part-time practice and then I would be part-time in the business world. And so I was doing that for years. But in the meantime, I was running little birthday parties. And, anytime people would call me and say, can you do a little doctor program? I'm like, I would love to. And I really love program creation. And I think there's, education for kids has to be real. It
Mhm.
can't just be read this book. That's where I feel that we capture that power of role play. You put a white coat on a child, you give them a stethoscope, you give them a name tag saying Dr. Susie, or Dr. Joey, and it changes the dynamics. The kids embrace it.
Right.
And instead of going, this is stupid, this is, silly, they really, they become this physician in training, and they actually see that, this is something I can do. Math and science, I can do it.
Mhm.
And that's really what we're trying to bring with the brand.
That's so inspirational because you grew up in that sort of environment, but most people don't. So you really
Right.
took the best of your childhood, and now we're able to
Mm-hmm.
spread that to other kids to see if maybe they have an interest. And you
I
may.
remember in I remember being in first grade, and some substitute teacher was going around asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, a doctor. And she just said, that's really hard. You're going to be in school till you're, almost 30. That's a really hard path.
Oh my
And
goodness, really
and
inspirational.
she didn't know who my mother was, and my mom was down at, like, was taking, calling, like, who's telling you that, who's telling the kids this. So
Oh.
but I do see that happen a lot, because the other great thing about our brand is not only are we targeting kids between the ages of 4
Mhm.
and 14.
Oh
We
wow.
do
Okay.
high school. We do high school as well, but I really like that age group,
Yeah.
because I think you can really make a difference.
Mm.
But we also can bring in what we call junior instructors. So I take high school students, but I use tons of college students and to be instructors.
Mhm.
But what that does for them is that, if you can teach it, it's going to make you so much better when you're practicing it. So we're really able to have this whole, spectrum and gamut of children and young adults that we're really, shaping into becoming the future healthcare professionals of tomorrow.
Sure. You're making something possible that a lot of kids didn't maybe don't think was in the cards for them, or they're not given encouragement by their parents. and
Yeah.
you're opening their eyes to the possibilities.
It amazes me, the stereotypes. Because I actually talk to a lot of pre-meds, and parents will call me and say, hey, can you talk to my kid? They think they want to, they're thinking they might want to go to medical school.
Hmm.
And especially women, I hear it all the time, I won't have a life. I won't be able to, have a family if I go into medicine. And it's like, that is so not true.
Mm.
And they almost try to talk themselves out of it. Oh, I'm not smart enough. It's like, of course you are. And so that's where, we really tell kids, and it's, and honestly, people always ask me, well, how many doctors do you think you've actually gotten out of this program in the last, 20, 4 years? And I would say this is that I don't honestly, if they actually do become physicians, that's fantastic. If
Hmm.
they become nurses, veterinarians, dental assistants, any of that, that is fantastic. But if they go into some other career and they did it because they found out during our programming they were good at something, that there was something
Yes.
they didn't realize, that's the success here. And, I remember when I was a kid back in the, 70s, you're in eighth grade, you're filling out your little form, what you want to be.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, we get second and third graders who will tell us, I'm not good at math. And it's like, who
Oh,
told you that? It's like,
right,
you're good at math. And so, like in pharmacy school, we have them doing dosing of pills and, figuring out doses for patients. And all
right.
of a sudden it's like, hey, you just did math. And they kind of look at you and they said, I did. Or the funny one that I see a lot is that STEM is such a big buzzword. It's
Oh,
so
yes.
big in education, but STEM has really become, in certain ways, coding,
Hmm.
robotics, and the physics and engineering. And some kids just don't like that. But you put them in a little veterinarian class and you show them, biology, and you show them how to take care of a pet and to diagnose a pet, or I should say a cat or a dog or a
Right,
horse. All of a sudden they're like, that's science. It's like, of course, this biology is science. And
right.
so it's very important. And this is something when we go into schools and do our after school programs and
Hmm.
our summer camps and special programs, we tell them you have to have a well-rounded STEM program and offerings, because if you just do robotics and coding with the kids, you're going to lose a lot of kids, and
Absolutely.
you don't want kids in fourth and fifth grade saying, I'm not good at STEM and science.
Sure. I kind of feel like the secret to little medical school is that kids don't even realize that they're learning, that they're
Yes.
enjoying what they're doing. And like you said, even if they don't become a doctor, if they learn about their own bodies, that's success.
Yeah.
Or the fact that you're giving them confidence. What you and I have, we have a lot in common, I think, when it comes to child-related businesses, is that I was in the sports business. I never
Yeah.
expected my the kids to play in my sports program to be professional athletes. Same things
Yeah.
with you. You're not expecting them to become physicians, but
Right.
if we're giving them confidence to be able to take on
Mhm.
challenges in life and find their passion, that's success in itself.
It is. And you are so right though too about, learning about health and
Mm-hmm.
learning about how to be a good, accountable patient. And we just have to look back a couple of years to COVID,
Right.
and all the lessons we learned there. It was, and not only was it the importance, of taking responsibility for your own health and for vaccinate, whether you needed to get a vaccination or not, or whether you had to wash your hands and social distance, but it uncovered all the workforce development issues we have in healthcare.
Yes.
And that's the other area that I get very excited about, is that our program is universal, so we can go into these top performing schools, with kids who are learning all this great science, and our program works
Mm-hmm.
because they're learning something different than what they're learning in health and science. But we can also go to underperforming, struggling schools, and we get the same type of reception from the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting. It's People love to dress up, and I find, even in middle school, middle school's tough.
Sure.
Those they're a tough
It is
audience,
rough.
but
Oh, yeah.
if you put a white coat on those kids and give them a stethoscope and show them how to use it and start showing them how to we do casting, we do first aid, we do all sorts of emergency medicine, wilderness medicine. And I got to tell you, that one has been really funny for me because, when we develop, we have probably about 1,000 hours of programming. We have, I mean, just all these great programs that we pull out. But wilderness medicine was funny because I wanted to make sure that, when kids were, out in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
which I find out a lot of kids don't go camping. A lot of kids, don't know what to do if they have an emergency in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we would do the focus group with kids, we'd be like, okay, you and a friend are walking, taking a hike, your friend falls in a ditch, can't get up. What do you do? Everyone raises their hand and says, call my mom or dad on my cell phone. And it's like, okay, your cell phone doesn't work. And they just look at you.
What do you mean my cell
So,
phone doesn't work? That's the big tragedy
exact,
here.
right. No, but it's like you don't have any cell service. What do
Right.
you do? And so that's the other thing that has been kind of fascinating along this whole journey with, as we introduce this, is that, kids have lost a lot of the life skills that we
Yeah,
had growing up because their parents and or an adult or somebody they trust is a phone call away with their
sure.
cell phone. So they don't always know how to think through emergencies,
Mm.
and that is such an important skill. So that's another area that we do a lot with, like hyperthermia. We have the nice little we have in hypothermia we have those nice little emergency blankets. We show them how to use them. We show them how to filter water so they don't get sick. I mean, we do all sorts of really fun activities, but are critical, and it could be life-saving for them. And
Wow.
that's, that I think is what's also incredibly valuable about our franchise. It's not just the kids got to, play for an hour, but I really feel they're learning things that are going to help them for the rest of their life.
Sure. In my world, we used to call it age appropriate programming, right? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
certainly not going to teach kids that are 4 years old the same way or the same content as a 14-year-old, I assume.
Right.
We,
Well, and you know what's funny though, and I the also the beauty of what our program, the way it was created, is that I always brought educators. I would hire the best grade school, middle school educators I could find who knew how to write creative curriculum,
okay.
and I paired them with healthcare professionals. So we created very unique programming
Mm-hmm.
that is age appropriate, but really challenges kids. So I can get a 6-year-old to tell you the whole track of the digestive system because we do the digestion as an assembly line, and they all do. So they will sit there, and what we do is, at the end of our programming, we always do a big graduation where they come in and we, have the kids, you throw them questions, and,
Right.
we have them answer them for their parents and the adults that come. And it's amazing. The parents are like, I can't believe you taught my kid this. This is fantastic. But if you do it in a fun way and we just have a lot of really creative ways we teach,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have a lot of items we've developed that were not available anywhere else. So, for example, with our sports medicine,
Mm-hmm.
talking about sports here,
Sweet.
we teach the kids about Tommy John surgery. And
Wow.
we
Do you
actually have.
really? That's awesome.
Absolutely. They know about it. I mean, kids know, oh, that baseball player had that such shoulder surgery. So we have a lacing board where that we're showing them how it works. And you can teach kids this, but it's fun. And so I don't shy away from, teaching things to kids that, oh, that shouldn't be taught till, medical school or what. You can break things down and make it simple so kids understand it.
So it's the method at what you teach that concept, not so much.
It's the
So,
fun way you teach it.
yeah.
So like taking digestion, one kid's the mouth, one kid's the esophagus, one's stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and then we call it the end. But we're showing them, like, for example, in the large intestine,
Mhm.
they're throwing a sponge into the digestion bucket because you're absorbing all the fluid. in the large intestine, and that's what it does. And so you can show them simple ways
Right.
of what the functions are of different organs and how they work together, and kids love that.
Oh, I
and
bet.
and they love big words, so we always have three little medical school words of the day that some big fun words. Astomosis, we come up with all sorts of fun things that they can say, and
That their
and we
parents
tell
don't
them,
know.
and you tell them to go home and use them at dinner. And but it's fun
That's
because they
fun.
love that. But it's that way of, not only do they feel like they've achieved something,
Uh-huh.
the parents feel like they're actually getting value. And
Sure.
that's really important. Because we want kids to be excited and have fun in our classes, with and learn.
Mario, is the programming such that it's like a 10-week program or 6 weeks, or how do the sessions work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's whatever the customer wants. It's
Okay.
modular. So we do, the cornerstone, which where I really started was after school.
Hmm.
So after school, usually 1 to 1.5 hours, six times, over, a month and a half, so
Okay.
you would have, a program like that, or it'd be a 12-week program. So then you had to have, we would have them in, arranged in certain programs that you can do.
Hmm.
But then we also have it where if you do a summer camp, we have 25 hours of programming that can go over an entire week, along with a lot of what we call study breaks. Because kids you can't throw things at them constantly. You have to have fun as well. So those study breaks are those lighter things that they can do to break up these blocks of learning. So that was, then you have a summer camp. Now we also do like a birthday party. I know that is gross, where the kids make mucus and snot. They love that. We have, is there a surgeon in the house? We have, the veterinarian birthday parties. They love all those, are like, those hour programs.
Hmm.
And so what we do is we have all this programming the franchisees can access that we constantly are creating, but we're also up making sure it's up to date, because that's incredibly important for me, that it is correct. And it's,
Sure.
so you can actually use those in different ways. We also do intergenerational programs where you go into an assisted living and you got a grandparent with a grandchild doing an
Wow.
hour class together. We have done parents' night out. We do the Boy Scouts, and are now Scout badges, and then the Girl Scout badges.
Hmm.
We even had our own patch program with some of the Girl Scout councils, where we would do a morning program and they'd get a patch to put on the back of their vest saying Little Medical School. So there's this, where basically you can pull this programming in many different ways. You can actually do it as an in-school class, which we've done as well
Okay.
with some districts. And even during the pandemic, even though I didn't like it, we were doing Zoom. So we could actually do these, with materials the kids had around their house. But we also, the programs that we have that we run in schools and in community centers and wherever kids are, it's a very rich program, because I can tell you, being a mother of three, kids love to bring stuff home. They
Mm.
love to get stuff. So we always try to have something that the kids bring home from the class. And, and really the way this almost works is as they do different classes and courses,
Mhm.
they kind of collect things where they have their own doctor's office. Like I kind of had my own doctor's office when I was a kid in my playroom. So, but it's kind of fun for the, it makes it fun. And it's, and even with the veterinarian, I've had some kids do some of our classes, the same ones, like 3 and 4 times, because they like the dogs so much and they want a bunch of dogs. And I'm like, okay, but the other great thing about the programming is you can jump in at any time. So it's not like you have to do part one to do part two.
Oh, that's
So
great.
yeah, so we try to make it so it's when they're coming in, there's they can come in at any time. And then we've also been able to break it down where we have classes for younger kids,
Hmm.
that, 4 to 6, I call them those pre-readers. We have programming really aimed at 5 to 10-year olds. And then for those older kids, more that what we call that extreme med school, the medical school for teens. And so that's different programming as well.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.